At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The Honorable Charlotte Spadaro, elected to the City Council in 1984, became mayor in 1986. She also served on the Board of Education from 1978 to 1982, serving as president in 1982. Charlotte Spadaro.
Thank you very much. The first accomplishment I'm proudest of when I was mayor was to introduce no smoking in restaurants ordinance. And thank you. I have some pictures here. You may not be able to see them. Later on, you might come up and see them. We were in the New York Times, and the heading is, Beverly Hills Moves Against Smoking. We passed the first no smoking ordinance in a major city in the United States. And after that, other cities started sending for copies of our ordinance, and little by little, it became a no smoking country practically, and I'm so glad about that. The night of the vote, by the way, the restaurant owners were told they didn't, by someone on the Chamber of Commerce, they didn't need to bother to come to the meeting. They said, because she'll never get it through. And so that night, there was only one restaurant owner who came. He was the owner of Jacopo's on Little Santa Monica, which is a small square restaurant. And I actually was modest in my approach. I thought we could have a 60-40 ordinance to begin with, 60-40 no smoking. But the Jacopo's owner stood up and he said that wouldn't work in his restaurant because it couldn't be divided up. He said he'd rather have 100% no smoking. Well, that was even better, and the council immediately voted 100% no smoking, and it was quite a shock to everyone. The next thing that I'm proudest of is the jumelage, the sister city program between the city of Cannes in France and Beverly Hills. And amazingly, there was a little opposition to that because right before the vote, the country of France had not allowed American airplanes to fly over their airspace to bomb Libya. And so one of the council members did not want to have a sister city in France. And actually, it was interesting because I didn't know how to answer him. So I went to see a very wise person in the community, and a prominent rabbi, actually, and I asked, how should I answer that? And he said, tell him that France is not the enemy. Libya is the enemy. So I did say that, and in any case, it passed, and it's a beautiful program to this day, and it promotes understanding and friendship between two cities that have a lot in common. The third accomplishment that I'm proudest of is that many years ago there was a water tower on the corner of Olympic and La Cienega, and a lot of people wanted to tear it down and make a little league field there. But the preservationists of the city didn't want to do that. They wanted to keep that tower and have it used for some beautiful project. And so I did not wish to see it demolished either. It was a landmark, and the council actually voted to demolish the tower. The demolition order came to my desk, and I didn't really have the heart to sign it. So I called the vice mayor, Ben Stansbury, and I said, Ben, would you sign it, because I just don't have the heart to sign it. And he said, sure, okay, I will. So I left. I went home. A few minutes later, Ben called the office, and he said to the secretary, wait a minute, why should I sign it? Let Charlotte sign it. But I had already left. So the next morning, the preservationists in Beverly Hills, the architects and those wonderful people, went to court, and Judge Fields issued an order protecting the water tower and not allowing it to be demolished. At the next meeting that we had, Ed Crines, who was a city manager at the time, and a former police chief, and sometimes pretty tough, he stood up and he said to me, "You did a pocket veto by keeping that demolition order on your desk for so many days." And at that moment, Jean Ushijima, who was our city clerk, a beautiful lady, stood up, and she stood up to Ed Crines and she said, "No, she didn't do that. I put that order on her desk only that very morning." So that was a lovely thing that she did to protect me, and the water tower was protected. What happened next was the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences decided they would like to use that water tower for their film library. And as soon as they said the word, everybody fell in line. They all liked the Academy, and so they have that beautiful film library there because we didn't demolish it. Anyway, it's lovely to be here with you, and thank you so much.
The Honorable Allan Alexander was elected to the Beverly Hills City Council in 1988 and was mayor in 1990. He was re-elected in 1992 and again mayor in 1995. Allan has been a practicing attorney for over 40 years. He is currently CEO, president, and director of the Johnny Carson Foundation, a private charitable foundation. The Honorable Allan Alexander.
Thank you. And Marty, I just want to tell you that it's wonderful that you did this again after 17 years, and we really appreciate it. And Ira, thank you for doing it. I have to add that I've done some age analysis, and if you do it again in 17 more years, you will not need to call me. I want to talk about 4 areas of interest that I had, areas of focus. And the first area of focus is the relationship between the business sector of the city and the residential. Nothing new, conflict, different views, and here's the reason why I got into the issue and why I ended up on the city council and the planning commission. And I'm sitting here today. And that is because in 1976, my wife and I bought a house in the 200 block of South Roxbury Drive. Well, what was going on in 1976? We moved in. Who else was moving in? Neiman Marcus was moving in up the street. And so I started thinking, you know, I looked over at Saks and the streets south of Saks, Peck and Rodeo and all of that, and I saw cars parked there in front of every house. The workers parked there for the retail and the customers, and I said, this is going to happen on Roxbury and McCarty. I also looked at the traffic generation down those streets, and I said, this is a problem. Well, fortunately, there were other people on the street in that area that also had the same concerns. And that led to 4 of us forming the Southwest Beverly Hills Homeowners Association. That's how it started, and it's still in existence today. I was the first president. I was there for 5 years, and then was asked to go on the planning commission, so I resigned. I didn't want a conflict, and then proceeded. Ken Goldman, who was was one of the founders, Jay Goldner, and Bernie Nebenzahl, all the 4 of us started it. And we were looking at 2 issues, parking and traffic, which you know. And the parking, what we did is we convinced the city council to adopt permit parking, which is now throughout the city. At that time, it was only on a couple streets at night for the Academy Theater. And we took the idea and said, okay, we're going to do it over the whole area of the homeowners group, which was all the single-family residences in the Southwest. And they adopted it. And Richard Stone was one of them. But I don't remember if he voted in favor of it. We won't go into that. But in any way, we got that adopted, and that's now has really addressed the parking issue in the residential neighborhoods. The other one we focused on was traffic. Well, I will tell you, we went through, livable streets, we went through roundabouts, we did all kinds of things over the years, and we've still to this day, of course, really not addressed and been able to confront the issue of traffic as it relates to the residential streets, although there were some things that were done that were pretty helpful. The other one related to that interface was Barney's. And Barney's, you know the location, and when I was mayor in 1990 and 91, that project was on the boards for approval. And keep in mind that I had been the president for 5 years of the homeowners association right next to it. In fact, Donna Ellman and Joe Tillum were representing Barney's, did a good job. And I was sitting up there analyzing what this project was going to be like. You've heard comments here about the 3-story height limit and how great it is, and went into effect, and I'm not arguing about that. And the 2-to-1 FAR, no more than 45 feet in height. Well, you know what Barney's is. Barney's is a structure of 5 stories. It's got 90 feet instead of 45 feet. It's got 108,000 square feet. Don't ask me why I remember that, but it is true. You can look it up, 108,000 square feet. A gorgeous building built by designed by a New York architect, Peter Marino. And here's what happened. There was a lot of people that were upset about that because of that. Well, we created an overlay zone, and that was a legal way to do this, even though you had the 3-story height limits. There's other buildings that have been done that. Montage is an example. And there's something called an anchor location in the general plan that allows you in certain senses to do the extra height. But I had a lot of neighbors and all that were very angry about it. But I supported it, and I analyzed it this way. There was no shade and shadow problem into the residential area. There was no parking problem because we had permit parking. And as far as traffic, there was analysis that was done, and I was very satisfied with it, that it was not going to increase the traffic. And I approved it. And I will say this, that I really think that if I had not supported it, that project would not have been approved by the city council. I thought it was important because it worked and wasn't going to hurt the neighborhood, and I thought it was important to have a new high-end retail in our city at that time, and bringing in younger people. The other areas of focus was the subway, which I was very much a proponent of, technology and setting up the technology committee, and A.J. Wilmer, who was on it, is here tonight. And the other one was in economics of the city, establishing BH 100, which is to create $100 million of an endowment for the city. And thank you very much for listening.